Hello and welcome to Star Wars Warts and All, a podcast where we talk about all the things we love about Star Wars, warts and all. Joining me as always are my friends Ben.
Hello.
Bill.
Hi.
And Will.
Hello there.
No, I'll save that for later. Well, from Sith Apprentice to Old Master, with stops at Crime Lord and Ruler of Mandalore along the way, let's take a trip through Darth Maul's journey as it plays out over the screen and page.
This is my apprentice, Darth Maul.
At last we will reveal ourselves to the Jedi. At last we will have revenge.
If you haven't been diving into all of the other Star Wars media, apart from the main Skywalker Saga movies, or even the spin-offs, you might not be aware that the big bad villain from Episode 1 came back. He didn't actually die.
What?
When he was chopped in half. Yeah, I'm sorry, spoilers.
How many people do you think were surprised at the end of Solo?
Right, that's my point.
I would say a good amount. I know my wife was.
Or confused as to like where this fits on the timeline if they think he's still alive, so. The goal of this podcast episode here is to educate some of those people who might not realize that he did survive. And he's got a whole story. There's a lot of tie-in material with comics and with some of the animated shows and all this other stuff. So strap in. Going to give you a hopefully brief history of Darth Maul and talk a little bit about his portrayal and his overall character arc.
Yep, let's do it.
Maul was born supposedly
Whatever his name was.
54 years before the Battle of Yavin. That's, obviously the scale of time is measured in years before and after the big battle at the end of Star Wars Episode 4.
Right.
He was born on Dathomir, which is a planet known for what? Who can tell me?
Witches. The Night Sisters.
Yeah.
We talked about them last week.
Yeah, briefly mentioned them,
Yeah. Also just scary stuff in general.
Yes, it's a dark, spooky, never... Does he even have a sun? It's like always hazy and dark there. I don't think...
It's true. Very, very, very spiritual planet, we'll say.
Yeah.
And his mother is Mother Talzin, the kind of the leader of the Night Witches, or Night Sisters.
Wait,
sorry.
she's like his biological mother?
Yes.
Really?
As far as I know, yes.
Wow.
I don't know if it's ever explicitly said that she birthed him, but
right.
in everything I've seen says he is the son of Mother Talzin.
Okay.
Along with...
He calls her mother all the time.
Yeah, well, maybe they all do because of her stature, but status, not
Her
stature.
rank.
Yeah.
She has the rank of mother.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Well, Mother Teresa, Mother Talzin.
Yeah, same thing.
Right,
Yeah. Anyway, he does have two brothers. They'll come into the picture a little later. As we alluded to, Maul was not his birth name. He doesn't remember what it was because he had a very tragic and depressing early life, as we'll see in a second.
Yeah, no kidding.
He is his species is a Zabrak. They're the guys with the horns on the head. And
Was he the first Zabrak ever in canon or in Star Wars? I think he was.
Possible, yeah. It was not obviously mentioned by name. We probably didn't learn about the name of the species until probably Star Wars Galaxies, the game we played, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Possibly.
You're probably right. Yeah.
I mean, that's a whole nother episode. About
Subspecies.
Zabraks. Ben can probably talk to us for hours.
Yeah, there are subspecies of Zabrak. They're not 100% Zabrak, but that's besides the point.
Right.
Oh, all right. Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah.
Mentioned Mother Talzin. Palpatine, or then known as Darth Sidious, Emperor Palpatine's back in the day. He had a plan to learn as much of this magic that the Night Sisters used from Talzin. He was kind of thinking about taking her on as an apprentice, all this sort of thing, until he sensed an anger in Maul, and he thought maybe he can groom him to be his new apprentice instead. So he engineered, like he always does, this whole scenario where Maul will be subjected to all this abuse and manipulation and all this.
That will make you stronger.
Right. Put him through all these trials without anybody knowing, of course, because that's what Palpatine does, or Sidious does. And so,
where are you pulling this information from?
all right, that's a good question. I was going to bring this up. This is the one piece of material that I was not able to review or consume in the past few weeks.
So they don't actually show this part in Clone Wars?
No, this is from the Galaxy's Edge exclusive version of the book Myths and Fables,
Really?
which you can only get at Galaxy's Edge.
Oh no!
There's the
wasted our time?
yeah, I know. There's the main version of the book that is available
gotten it.
everywhere, but this specific one has
There's
a few
like, I
extra
remember
stories
seeing
in
that.
it.
There's like 4 extra stories
Yeah.
in the end. Yeah. Oh, cool! I gotta check that out now.
Yeah. So,
All right, next time someone goes, Chris, give me a copy.
but anyway, just manipulated. Eventually, he proves himself to be worthy of being Sidious's new apprentice, and this all
They
happens when he's a
allude-
child. By the way,
Yeah.
They do allude back to this in the Clone
Yeah,
Wars.
they-
They
yes.
do mention some of it.
yeah. So anyway,
Briefly.
in the end, Taliesin is not happy with Palpatine for corrupting her son and taking him instead of her as his apprentice. So she's got this out, got it out for him now, in a way.
Yeah. Right.
So over the years, this is where a lot of things are kind of not known. Maul goes off to train with Sidious for years. They're in secret because nobody knows the Sith are still around at this point. Everyone thinks they're dead.
Right.
So Sidious forbids him from making his existence known, or even the Sith's existence known. But Maul has this bloodlust growing inside him. He can't contain himself. He needs to go out and kill stuff all the time because he's just full of
Dad,
rage.
when do I get to kill Jedi?
Yeah,
Dad?
right. So in order to, satiate this desire to kill, he goes off on these hunting trips with like a very elite guard to be with him, to keep him in check. He goes off hunting.
like creatures.
Yeah,
beasts?
exotic beasts, Raftars in particular, that we've seen in Episode 7. Those giant tentacled monsters that Han Solo was transporting.
Hauling.
So all this stuff, killing beasts and stuff, doesn't do it for him. He needs more. He really wants to take it to the Jedi and to kill a Jedi and to prove himself as worthy and powerful as he thinks he is. So on a job from Sidious at this point to protect some Trade Federation guys from pirates, he hears about a Jedi who's been captured and is going to be auctioned off. So he raids this auction, is able to fight this Jedi Padawan. It's Padawan. So in the end, it's not going to be satisfying either. Clearly.
Not good enough.
Yeah. So in the end, he fights this Jedi, kills the Jedi Padawan. All of this was secret from Sidious because obviously he's not supposed to be out there making his presence known. So when he does return eventually after killing this Jedi, Sidious, he knows. Of course he knows because he's Sidious. He can't hide anything from him. So he's kind of mad at him, but he's eventually okay with it because he didn't spill the beans that they're out there.
Right.
So a little while later, status quo keeps going on, but then Sidious kind of loosens the leash a little bit and lets him do some more covert dealings, this time in the underworld, where he pretends to be like a member of this drug cartel on a score to knock off some spice from these dealers. Ends up killing this crook who's kind of force sensitive, which is cool because we always talked about how we think like regular people could potentially just use the force. That's kind of this guy.
Yeah, it's kind of a rare thing to
Yeah.
see, especially in adults.
Again, it also ties in with like he calls it luck and stuff like that. The spice guy couldn't consider it the force. He just uses it and calls it luck. So anyway, he takes out this guy, scores the drug money and all this stuff. Obviously, Sidious knows about this. He's not happy about it. So then he takes Maul off for a lesson over to a planet called Malachor.
It's an Old Republic reference?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's one of the
Malachor.
Sith, like, home worlds, right? Or something.
Malachor was the name of the main planet from the main bad planet from Knights of the Old Republic. It was like a super weapon almost.
Yeah, so remember that for later. But he takes Maul to Malachor to remind him of why the Sith hate the Jedi. You see this, it's like a plane. It's if you think of like the ruins of Pompeii, how there's like bodies or ashes in the form of bodies.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of like that there. There's this giant battle between the Sith and the Jedi. Everything's been turned to ash because of this super weapon that Ben mentioned.
Oh, okay.
What?
So
I didn't even put that together.
And this, again, will come in later too, but Sidious makes Maul breathe in the ashes of the dead Sith, and he has this vision. Won't go into the details there, but it just reinforces his hatred for the Jedi and makes him even more loyal to Palpatine. And then he understands, yes, I will be more patient and, do what you ask of me and all this sort of stuff.
Gotcha.
Next major thing is the events of the Phantom Menace, Episode 1. He is sent off by Sidious to track down Queen Amidala, to capture her, bring her back, and to sign the treaty which would make the invasion of Naboo legitimate.
Right.
That's basically it for the movie. That's like the least involved story of his whole history here.
Yeah.
Well, that's because it's the first.
Yeah. No, he tracks them to Tatooine, fights Qui-Gon in that first battle there. Then that's the moment where they realize, oh, the Sith are alive. They're here. They're back.
Yeah.
And then obviously they show down on Naboo, kills Qui-Gon, and then Obi-Wan slices him in half. So he's dead.
And then they realized, oh wait, this guy's pretty cool. We could have done a lot more with him. So
Well, yeah, they slapped his face on pretty much every piece of merchandise around the time. So
Yeah. I forgive a lot for the Phantom Menace, but I think the biggest thing that's unforgivable is two of the best characters in the prequels are killed off in that movie with Qui-Gon Jinn and Darth Maul.
Yeah.
So we know that the dark side can do impressive things at the expense of one's sanity, maybe.
Well,
So-
somehow Palpatine returned, so
Well,
yeah.
sure, somehow Darth Maul survived, and that somehow would be the dark side of the Force. His sheer will and hatred of presumably Kenobi at this point, since he's the one who sliced him in half. He just somehow survived the fall down the reactor shaft, whatever it is. Lands in a trash container. Gets transported to this planet called Lotho Minor out in the Outer Rim. It's like a junk trash planet. So this over the course of 10 years, he's out there, slowly driven mad through his his will to keep himself alive. Somehow fashions a spider body to use as legs and crawl around.
Those are
creepy.
Those are pretty cool. I got they're like creepy. They're always twitching. They're like kind of unstable. It's like very cool the way.
It's like cobbled together somehow.
Well, we saw
Very-
what
very
happened
scary.
in Terrifying Tales. We saw how he got the.
Oh, that's right. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why we're doing this, to set the record straight on what happened to Darth Maul.
Right. So he is stranded on this junk planet. Meanwhile, back on Dathomir, we catch up with his brother, the oh so subtly named Savage Opress.
Just
So he
let's
was
just be
born
clear.
with that name.
It's savage. It's savage.
Yes.
Like that's
It's spelled
It's spelled savage. Savage Opress, who had a brief turn as Count Dooku's kind of apprentice.
Yeah,
But-
you know what I thought watching this recently? He's basically like a dark side super soldier, because they like handpicked him to be an assassin basically, and then the Night Sisters do some kind of crazy ritual, and he gets like all beefy and jacked up off of their like green smoke or whatever. It's like it just totally reminded me of that. It's like, all right, now you're ready to go.
Well,
be
didn't
an animal?
Yeah, didn't he, even during like the trials when they were picking him, didn't he like try to help out his fellow like Night Brothers?
Yeah.
It was very reminiscent of, yes, an evil Steve Rogers.
Yeah, basically.
All right, so once he kind of fails as Dooku's apprentice, he returns back to Mother Talzin, who tells him that he has a brother and that he's alive out on this Outer Rim planet. So she gives him a little talisman to help him find Maul, which he does. And he eventually brings Maul back to Dathomir, where Mother Talzin is able to restore his sanity gives him new legs, 2 legs this time, not 6 or 8.
But these still are not his permanent legs.
No,
right?
they're kind of like chicken legs. They're these weird, like, backwards bent claw legs.
It's gonna go the wrong way.
Yeah.
In the process of restoring his mind, Mother Talzin loses her physical form. She basically turns into that green mist smoke stuff that is everywhere on Dathomir.
Because it takes so much out of her or something?
Yeah, I guess it uses all the magic that she has. I don't know. I don't remember.
She
but-
lost the will to live.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Somehow, Mother
will come-
Talzin has vaporized.
But that'll come in later in the story, obviously.
Yeah. Right.
Newly returned, Maul calls out Kenobi because he's still got this raging revenge that he wants.
Raging what?
That's important. Yeah. So he calls out Kenobi by slaughtering a whole bunch of innocent people and sending a hollow out across the galaxy to just get him to come over here to confront him again because he has obviously a debt to pay. But in this time, you start to see that he is listening to, or he did listen to, Sidious's teachings, because he is starting to come up with these more plans and not just rushing in and doing things. He's setting these traps and he's exhibiting patience.
Well, if you think about it, Darth Maul's downfall against Obi-Wan was that, but it's more arrogance than patience. I guess he almost waited too long against Obi-Wan. Never mind.
Well, it's interesting because as we get into the next part, I kind of felt like he had some plans, but like they weren't well thought out too much, and so it led to his downfall again.
His emotions always got the best of him, it seems, at times. Because there's multiple times where he actually has Kenobi in his grasp, captured, but somehow Kenobi manages to escape. So
it's an interesting dynamic between him and Kenobi, I feel.
yeah, it's kind of like the Batman and Joker kind
I
of
was just
dynamic.
about to say that.
Yeah, it's like his hatred. I feel like his hatred is actually for Sidious, but he wants to like make Kenobi understand him better by making him feel his pain or something.
Yeah,
Which
that's certainly...
I think his hatred is literally for everybody.
I feel like I'm jumping ahead a little bit though, so sorry.
Sorry. All right. So yeah, like I mentioned, he ends up capturing Kenobi, but he escapes. Then Maul's next move is to kind of get an army or get at least a crew behind him. So he goes to pirates.
Right. So he knows that's a resource to be tapped. Basically.
Right. So he kind of tries to take over Hondo Onaka's crew, who he's a big Clone Wars and Rebels character. Also owns a shipping thing on Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah.
Yes.
Onaka Transport Solutions.
Yeah. Again, here encounters Kenobi. They fight. Kenobi manages to chop off Savage's arm. He chops off one of Maul's new chicken legs, and they are able to escape on a ship. Well, on an escape pod from their ship. It's badly damaged. They're on death's door. This pod is just floating in space.
Right. Okay. Yep. I remember this.
Then from there, they are found by the Death Watch.
Who are Mandalorians? Yeah. The Death Watch.
Yeah.
The Death Watch are mentioned in The Mandalorian. I think they're referred to as the Watch, right? I think
Well, so that's not clear to me.
I think they're two different factions.
Well,
I think
they're basically Mandalorian like terrorists, essentially, or extremists, to say the least.
So it's like they're believers in the old ways of how when Mandalore was like a warrior
Right.
culture, but Mandalore now is like a pacifist. They try to stay neutral under the rule of Satine, the Duchess of Mandalore.
Right, and Satine is
but Death Watch
gentle
obviously
soul.
wants to bring back like the fighting ways, the traditional, like when you see a Mandalorian with the armor, that's Death Watch. At this point in time, like they're the ones wearing that Mandalorian armor. The rest of Mandalore is not.
Right, they're just
they don't
regular
fight.
old people. Yeah, right.
Right.
That is a good point.
Right. So they're found by Death Watch floating around in this escape pod. And they manage to fix Maul's legs give him better, more human-looking legs, which is nice. And then they eventually agree to form an alliance to overthrow Duchess Satine and the pacifist Mandalore government.
Right.
And then they realize they don't have enough people.
Right. Okay, that's right. Yeah. So, but all the while, Maul's plan is just to use them, right? Like, this is just a step.
Yeah, more or less. He wants
having an army.
Yeah, he just wants protection and power to influence the underworld mostly. Anyway, so he starts gathering a whole, what would you call it, organization.
Gaggle?
Yeah, a crime organization. He connects crime syndicates together, basically.
He actually murders the leadership of the Black Sun and then takes over the whole thing.
Yeah, that was his first stop. Takes over Black Sun. Then I guess his reputation preceded him. Where the Pikes, they join willingly. These are the guys that you would see in Solo. They ran the spice mines of Kessel.
Yeah, with the tubes coming out of the bottom.
Yeah, and then eventually he even goes over to Tatooine and fights his way through Jabba's palace, threatens Jabba, and they eventually join as well. But yeah, eventually the plan was to restore Vizsla as the leader of Mandalore, who would protect Maul's galactic underworld. And they were going to do this by Maul invading Mandalore with his group of ruffians. He's just what they call it, the Shadow Collective. And then Death Watch was going to come in and save the day because they're warriors and they could protect people. And then the whole planet would cheer for Death Watch and they'd put them back into power.
Well, and at this point, too, Mandalore's in a pretty sad state where, because of their stance of neutrality, like they basically couldn't trade with anyone because they're like, Republic, we don't want anything to do with you. And so like there was a lot of corruption on the planet because there was shortages of everything and they had to turn to the black market.
Right.
So they're like kind of falling apart at this point. And so I think I feel like it's pretty easy for like Death Watch to come in and be like, well, look, now it's gotten so bad that like all these criminals are now like trying to take over the planet. So
Yeah.
It was already on the verge of a civil war at that point.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and they used it to their advantage because it worked. Death Watch gains control. Pre Vizsla is the leader of Death Watch. He is
Voiced
by
friend of the show.
right.
John Favreau.
I don't think we're allowed to. We're probably not even allowed to say that.
He's a friend of a friend. Dave Filoni is our friend, and he's just a friend.
Well, they listen. Right. They listen with one earbud in each ear together.
All right. Anyway, so Pre Vizsla gains control, and then pretty much immediately turns on Maul because I think he senses that Maul is going to turn on him. So
do you think Maul like expected that? He was just like waiting. All right, so this is what's gonna happen. This is gonna go down. This guy's gonna turn on me, and then I'm just gonna have to kill him. Like he must have had this.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Maul certainly did not see him as a threat anyway.
Well, yeah,
it was basically Vizsla's mistake to think he could stand a chance against Maul.
I mean, I think he may have had it in his mind. He's like, I don't actually want this guy to be like the puppet leader.
Right.
I need someone who I can actually control. And so he knew if he took Vizsla out, which, sorry if I'm getting ahead, like
No, that's fine.
he would have full control of everything.
Right.
So yeah, you're probably right. Because I mean, he was in jail for like 2 seconds after Vizsla turned on him.
Right. I just can't remember if there was ever a time he turned to like Savage and was like, "Oh, don't worry, we're just gonna kill him as soon as we have the chance," kind of thing.
I can't remember.
It was implied, probably.
Possibly, yeah.
Well, whatever the case, once he gets out of prison, Maul, that is, he challenges Vizsla to a duel, defeats him, and then the way the Mandalorian culture works, Pre Vizsla had control of the Darksaber, which we've seen in The Mandalorian season 2.
Right.
And then now Maul controls the Darksaber. Whoever controls the Darksaber controls Death Watch, who happens to be in charge of Mandalore at the time. So Maul is the leader.
Half of them, maybe.
Darksaber is a Death Watch thing.
I believe so.
Okay.
Bo-Katan is part of Death Watch.
She
At
was.
this point,
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
But her half deserts because they don't want an outsider to lead Mandalore.
Right.
Basically.
She goes off with her group, and we'll see them.
Right, it's at that point where
they split
parts
off.
ways. But it is worth. So Bo-Katan, the hero, I guess, of Mandalorian season 2, or at least ally of Mando. She's not a good guy in the early, her early
Not really,
appearances
no.
in this. She's part of Death Watch.
No.
She's going right along with all this, terrorism.
Yeah. The Mandalorian stuff is interesting. I feel like we need to do an episode on that eventually.
All right, so Maul is in control of all of Mandalore. He starts to take over more and more neutral systems through Force, gains his power, that he really needs in order to follow through with his plan. Eventually lures Kenobi back one more time by threatening Duchess Satine, the former ruler of Mandalore. And why would that matter to Obi-Wan Kenobi?
Well, I think I would like to do an entire, little episode where we just talk about their relationship, because I think there might be a book coming out soon that delves even further into their past. But
Oh, really?
it seems like Kenobi and Satine in their youth had a relationship. Were in love with each other.
Yeah, it doesn't just seem like it.
Yeah,
like they
she
full on
spells
mentioned it
out.
earlier.
He basically tells her, right, if you asked me to leave the Order, I would have for you.
Yeah, right.
Which,
right.
coming from Obi-Wan Kenobi, those are big words.
Right.
I mean,
No, yeah, totally.
this guy's Jedi through and through, but this is a woman who would have had him turn his back on everything. And Maul kills her right in front of him.
Yeah. His quote was to Kenobi, "I never planned on killing you, but I will make you share my pain." And this is kind of what Bill was talking about before, yeah.
That's the exact part where it's like, okay, he's actually connected to Kenobi. Like, in his mind, he and Kenobi are connected in some way. Like, it's not really a hatred for Kenobi, even though he thinks it is. I don't know how to explain it better.
Yeah, well, maybe it'll become more apparent as we
Yeah, it does
continue
end up.
on.
Because Kenobi didn't kill him. Kenobi just took everything from him. So he's
Right. Yeah,
Right.
that's true.
There you
tempted
go.
to do the same.
Yeah. Now it's around this point where his hatred and power gets so unhinged, maybe, that Darth Sidious senses that he is still alive and comes to pay him a visit. And this is kind of the first time where you actually see him scared when he knows that Sidious is coming after him.
Yeah.
It takes a lot, obviously, to scare this guy.
I would assume if there's anybody that Darth Maul knows he is not a match for, it is his old master. I think that's probably,
Yeah, and that is apparent right away when Sidious kills his brother Savage with no problem, and then he defeats Maul, takes him to this hidden prison for some evil purpose that we never really find out what it is. But anyway, immediately after that, more or less immediately, he's broken out of this prison by his loyal Mandalorians.
right.
And during this time, he lost control of the Hutts, but he still has the Black Sun and the Pikes to do his bidding. And at this point, he starts to hatch a plan to restore Mother Talzin's physical form. Because remember, she gave that up to bring Maul back from his insanity. So he's got this plan to capture Count Dooku, to use him as a vessel to restore Talzin. It ends up working after they briefly work together to do something, as you know, these things always work out that way. But
Yeah.
anyway, so he's able to perform this ritual to get Talzin's body back, just in time for her to fend off Darth Sidious, General Grievous, and Count Dooku in order to let Maul escape. And in doing so, she dies immediately. So, got her back for a fleeting moment, and then
Is this all
she's
in
now
Clone
dead.
Wars, or
No, this is Son of
this is in
Dathomir
the
comic.
Okay.
This is a comic.
That's right. Which was
Yeah,
a
yeah.
Clone Wars script that was
Right.
scrapped, and later they just turned it into a comic. Right.
Right.
Oh.
So with that brief detour, Maul goes back to Mandalore, where he is located by one Ahsoka Tano and Bo-Katan. And they spring this trap that was obviously set for Obi-Wan Kenobi.
And this is the final season of Clone Wars, right? Or
Yeah, the newest, the Disney
newest final
release
season.
Yeah.
Yeah. The final season.
Right.
the one that overlaps with Episode 3.
Which I mean, and this is the best part of it. I mean, this is
It's so
really
good. There's
storytelling.
really good like choreography and stuff too with the fights.
Yeah.
All right, so Ahsoka and Bo-Katan spring this trap set for Kenobi. At some point, Maul had a vision or somehow found out that Anakin is kind of being groomed to be Sidious's next apprentice. He just like says that and then runs away, escapes, because he wanted to start this war on Mandalore to kill Anakin to stick it to Sidious. That was kind of his plan all
He
along.
wanted to take away his next little pet.
Right. But Ahsoka is able to capture him, and at this point, he's just pleading her to kill him because he obviously doesn't want to face Sidious again.
Right.
And this is where Order
Yeah.
66 happens.
Yeah, this is such a cool concept.
But that was a part where you really see him like truly afraid because he knows what's going on.
Yeah. It's
And he's just afraid of Sidious.
his moment
He's,
of
like,
clarity.
terrified.
He's like, finally understands Sidious's grand plan.
Yeah, he was nothing. Everyone is nothing to Sidious. It's all about his power. So Maul
Right.
was just a pawn like everyone else.
Yeah. And at this point, he's in this like Hannibal Lecter, crypt thing, keeping him
Yeah,
isolated
that's right.
on a ship when this all goes down. And obviously, Ahsoka's on the ship as well, and all the clones are starting to go after her because of Order 66.
Scratching their heads. Does she count as a Jedi?
Well, that was the loophole that saved her. But she ends up freeing Maul to create a diversion so she can figure out some sort of plan to make it out of there alive.
Yeah, Maul gets his hallway scene here.
Yeah.
He mows down a platoon of clone troopers by like ripping panels off the walls to use as shields and decapitating and cutting them in half. It's pretty brutal.
Yeah. It's like rips out the hyperdrive from the ship. He steals a ship and flies away. Never to be seen until the end of Solo, where he has worked on his criminal underground stuff.
So what is that, like an 8-year gap there from the end of Clone Wars to Solo, something like that?
Yeah, sounds about right.
Maybe a little less, I guess. No, it must be a little less. Maybe only like 5 or 6.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. But it's enough time to build up what is called Crimson Dawn.
Yes.
This
It's always building an underground.
yeah. But not much is known there. I'm sure we'll learn more as
Pretty sure, yeah. I think I mentioned it a couple episodes ago that they're doing a Crimson Dawn comic series next big arc. So I'm assuming they'll talk about it in that.
Yeah.
then roughly about, I don't know, 8 years or so after that, he surfaces again in the events of Star Wars Rebels.
Oh, so that's another big gap. So
Yeah.
there's just that one brief appearance in the middle where he's in a hologram and he's the leader of the Crimson Dawn. And
There's
then there's
so much
another
room for more.
8 years off before he shows up in Rebels.
So at some point in those 8 years, he has the idea to go back to Malachor, that planet we mentioned earlier with the bodies turned to ash and the battle station weapon temple thing. So he goes to Malachor to activate this weapon by way of getting a Sith holocron from inside.
And what is the weapon supposed to do?
Destroy things?
In Knights of the Old Republic 2, Darth Nihilus used it to siphon the energy off of planets to feed on them. That was his whole big thing, is he consumed planets by eating the force
So it's not
from
like
it.
it's not like a super laser. It's like some kind of ancient Sith dark side
Yeah.
training.
Magic
okay.
weapon.
Anyway, he's there looking for the stuff. He ends up getting stranded, and he's tracked by the Inquisitors, which is another Rebels era concept. They're kind of tasked by Vader to go out and hunt down all the remaining Force-sensitive children and masters and all that other stuff. Just so happens the crew of the Ghost from Rebels
Right.
also make their way to Malachor by way of Yoda's mission to go recover something that will give them great knowledge or something like that, which is the Sith holocron.
Like the big thing there is that he he kind of takes Ezra on as his apprentice, or at least in his mind, he starts calling Ezra his apprentice. And they're like bonded together by this holocron that they find.
Right. When they first meet, Maul pretends to be old and weak, and he's like, I need your help to get into this.
I'm not Sam Witwer at all. I'm an old man.
Right.
Well, and you actually see Ezra start to like touch the dark side a little bit too.
Sure. Yeah. Cuts his hair, gets all edgy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he ends up manipulating Ezra into helping him recover this Sith holocron, eventually activating the super weapon briefly, and then a nice little reunion with Ahsoka, because she's with them at this point too. They have a little fight. Maul ends up blinding Kanan, Ezra's master. Right. It's a very big turning point in his life. Eventually, obviously, he loses. Maul loses the fight, and he escapes in one of the Inquisitor's TIE fighters. Then later on, Maul captures the Ghost crew while Ezra and Kanan are off doing something else. He wants the Sith holocron, which they still have. He also wants the Jedi holocron that Kanan keeps, because there is this special thing that happens when you combine a Sith holocron and a Jedi holocron. If you open them up together and stare inside, you'll have clarity of vision, is what they say. Maul's looking for something. Kenobi.
His old pal.
Yeah. He needs more information. It was just like little pieces, fragments of visions and stuff. So he takes Ezra and brings him to Dathomir. And they use, ancient Night Sister magic to merge their minds again to get a fuller picture. We got some more zombie action when the spirits control Sabine and Kanan. But eventually they end up on Tatooine because he saw the vision of a desert planet with twin suns. And that's only one planet in the whole galaxy that has that. So they go to Tatooine. And then here is where, again, uses his despair to lure out Kenobi, just like he did with Satine and killing the innocent people on the hologram way back in the day. So then they have a final showdown. Kenobi meets Maul.
The best showdown ever.
Very samurai.
Yeah.
Knowing the whole history that they had together, it was a very, very satisfying death.
Yeah, it was very fitting, and it was only like 4 moves, or like it was very few.
So if
like,
you watch
if
you watch it, I've seen like breakdowns of this, like a split-second scene. But Maul tries to use the same attack on Obi-Wan that he used to kill Qui-Gon.
Right.
But Obi-Wan's having none of it. He just like deflects it, boom, slices Maul, done, fight over. That's it.
Yeah. Well, that's the story of Maul.
Well, and his last words and the way he kind of goes out is pretty interesting too.
Yeah, he eventually figures out that Kenobi is exiled to Tatooine to protect somebody. And we all know who it is, but then Maul finally figures it out, and he asks Obi-Wan,
Uncle Owen,
is he the chosen one? Obi-Wan says, yes, he is. And then Maul says, he will avenge us. And then he dies in Obi-Wan's arms. Yeah.
So he's realized, that's so
See, this is the point where he's realizing that Sidious is the one who took everything away from him, not necessarily Kenobi.
Right.
I think anyway.
By that.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting too because those last words are when they're having this like last discussion or whatever. Kenobi's actually like cradling him in his arms, like he's holding Maul as he's taking his last breath.
Yeah. Very, very powerful moment.
Very powerful moment, especially for a children's cartoon.
Well, and it's especially because Maul's the one who killed the woman that he loved too. Like,
Kenobi's above that,
and his master.
Yeah. Wow, what a jerk.
So that's Maul.
They took an unfortunate circumstance where they killed off this character really quick and turned him into probably one of the most iconic and yeah, I mean, he's pretty deep. His character development is pretty deep.
That's what I'm saying.
I think.
Out of all of the villains of Star Wars, I think, other than Anakin and the Emperor, I think he's got the deepest lore and backstory and everything that they piled on character development.
Well, he's got,
honestly,
got more than the Emperor, honestly. Like, there's...
Yeah.
Palpatine's always just kind of a background character. Even when he's in the picture, he's in the background of the picture.
True.
Boring conversation anyway.
Well, there's Maul. What any final thoughts on him before we wrap it up?
Well, there's Maul.
There's the Darth Maul. Well, he's not.
I want to hear from the listeners. I want to hear what their thoughts are.
Be honest. Did you know that Maul was still alive?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for those that did know that he was alive, how did you feel about it when you first saw that episode or anything like that? Because when I first saw it, I was like, "What? No, get out of here!"
So warts and all at Twitter and Instagram and Gmail. What are your thoughts?
WORRTS.
That is how you spell it.
That's how you spell it.
Spell it out. Spell it
I
out.
haven't figured it out by now.
Join us next week. We'll do something. Join us next time. We'll do something. Everybody will have a laugh, I guess, and we'll keep going.
Next week we'll do the election special. Keep up with the holidays. We'll talk politics.
We'll talk
next week.
Yeah, next week we'll talk about the Trade Federation and how that all plays out.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Something Darth Maul would say.
Yeah, I know. I feel like I used it up last week.
Yeah. Just scream Kenobi at the top of your lungs.
Kenobi!
Kenobi!
Kenobi.
Kenobi!